right, there's our subject matter for essay number 75, John Winthrop. John Winthrop was the founder of the city of Boston and the first governor of Massachusetts. So there we have a beautiful portrait of him. So we're reading this beautiful book called American Miscellany. And we've just finished reading an essay on the American continent. That was essay number 74. We are now on essay number 75. And it actually starts here on page 178. So let's go ahead and get into the biography of John Winthrop, first governor of Massachusetts. We know nothing in the history of colonies marked with so many peculiarities as the first settlement of New England. No others were ever founded for purposes strictly religious. Christian faith gives a tone to society that is still felt throughout the community. The belief of a special providence directing all matters of government and ordering its changes, visiting vice with temporal calamities, and giving peculiar aid to right motives, seemed to bring man into more immediate communication with his Maker, and to inspire him with high resolves. We've got a little asterisk here, so let's go ahead and read that footnote really quickly. So the footnote is entitled, Our Pilgrim Fathers. When our fathers fled from persecution in England and sought an asylum in this country, they at first depended much upon the supplies of food from the mother country. A company of them having at one time gone to the seashore, after anxiously looking for a vessel which was to bring them corn, and being disappointed, hunger induced them to search among the pebbles for something to satisfy the craving demands of nature. And sincere was their gratitude to him who opened his hand and satisfieth the desire of every living thing, when they found in the sand a kind of mussel, of which they partook, and found to be wholesome and nutritious. One day, after they had finished a hearty meal of this kind, a venerable old man stood up and returned thanks, by blessing God, that he had fulfilled to them the promise made to Zebulun. Deuteronomy 33, verse 19. They shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas, and of treasure hid in the sand. Okay, it was in this way that the colonists sustained themselves through the difficulties and dangers which met them at every step, and which it was the daily, constant occupation of their lives to surmount. But for this principle, it would not be easy to understand fully the prevailing character of the early period of their history, and to judge aright of the principles which supported the fathers of New England in their struggles, situated as we are in the midst of ease and prosperity. Indeed, the whole character of those who influenced and directed their counsels has never been correctly estimated. By some it has been viewed as a model for the present generation, possessed of every virtue, without blemish or reproach. Others have seen nothing but bigotry, hypocrisy, a spirit of persecution, gloomy superstition, and an absence of the social graces and virtues. Both of these views do violence to human nature, history, and truth. There is a manifest want of justice in deciding upon any portion of history in the abstract, or by views which are attained in a more refined and cultivated state of society, where questions of natural right are better understood. A more current judgment may be formed by taking into the estimate the general state of society at the time, and any peculiarities in the combination of circumstances that go to form the aggregate. If we apply this rule to the early settlers of New England, we may lament the severities with which they visited differing shades of opinion and disrespect of authority. The readiness which they manifested to believe that the calamities which befell the erring and their enemies were instances of divine indignation. We could wish that some things had been otherwise, some we would blot out, but we cannot join with those who tread with contempt upon their ashes, and condemn the principal features of their character. They were no common men who guided the sufferers from the vengeance of power to these shores. Virtue was strong. Religion found her votaries, who were willing to quit the hearths and altars, the refinement and luxury of the old world, to erect temples to the Most High in the deep silence of our forests. We cannot join in a general condemnation of those who fostered the good institutions that have descended to us, strengthened them against the violence of opposition, planted the seeds of liberty, now in full fruit, and cherished religion till it became an essential element in the constitution of society. Surely it is some praise that they planted churches in every village, that by the system of free schools established in many towns so early as 1645, and by law in 1648, they sent the kindly influences of learning to the fireside of the humblest citizens, and to crown all, founded that venerable university, which for 2 centuries has been the direct source of incalculable good to the people, and may be regarded as, in an important sense, the parent of many of the similar institutions in our land. And all this at a time when the people were few, and by reason of their property were obliged for 1 year to forbear laying the usual tax. And by reason of their poverty were obliged for 1 year to forbear laying the usual tax. From a general view of our early history, we are satisfied that the fathers of New England were upright, intelligent, and pious men, whose main endeavor was to strengthen the colonies they had planted according to their ability, and that even their errors, in most instances, were the result of good motives and an ardent desire to promote religion, learning, purity, and all the best interests of the community. Governor Winthrop, the subject of this biography, was born at Groton, Groton, in Suffolk, England, June 12, 1587. And was descended from an ancient and honorable family. His grandfather was an eminent lawyer in the reign of Henry VIII and attached to the Reformation. His father was of the same profession, and the governor himself was bred a lawyer, in which character he was eminent for both integrity and abilities. Indeed, he must have had the fairest reputation, for he was appointed a justice of peace at 18 years of age. Must have had an awesome resume. Never happened now. Okay, justice of the peace at 18 years of age. Why not? White man, why not? When the design of settling a colony in New England was undertaken, Mr. Winthrop was chosen, with general consent, to conduct the enterprise. His estate, amounting to the value of £600 or £700 sterling a year, he converted into money, and embarked his all to promote the settlement of New England. When he left Groton, he was in the 43rd year of his age. He arrived at Salem with the Massachusetts charter, June 12th, 1630. To no one are we more indebted than to Winthrop, not only for the manifold good which he did in his own day, but also for the history he has left us of the early transactions in church and state in New England, and especially in Massachusetts. His work, which, as we gather from him, was intended for publication and posterity, was left by him in manuscript in 3 parts. These had all been in the hands of Hubbard, Mather, and Prince, who, it seems, had derived more assistance from them than they were ready to acknowledge. The first 2 parts, bringing the history down to 1644, were published at Hartford in Connecticut in 1790. The 3rd part was discovered in the tower of the Old South Church in Boston in 1816. On collating the manuscript of the first 2 parts with the printed volume, the latter was found to contain many errors, and the whole work has been published by the Massachusetts Historical Society with the assistance of the legislature of the state. The 3rd part had never been published. It continues the history down to the time of his death. Much interesting matter and many important facts are contained in this part. Of these are relations of the various discussions between the magistrates and deputies relative to their respective powers, an account of the synod that met, S-Y-N-O-D, an account of the synod that met at Cambridge to establish the platform of church discipline and government, a defense against the charges which were raised to the prejudice of the colonists by their enemies and preferred before the commissioners in England. These all serve to fill up the delineation of the character of the fathers of New England to the middle of the 17th century. The contents of Winthrop's History of New England are so various that it is difficult to make an extract that will do justice to the author. But we select at a venture his little speech, as he terms it. In 1645, when he was deputy governor, he was singled out from the rest of the magistrates who had acted with him to defend the legality of his proceedings in committing to prison certain persons in Hingham who had been concerned in some disturbance of the peace and who refused to find sureties for their appearance at court. The day of Winthrop's trial came, and he declined taking his seat upon the bench. Speaking of himself, as he does throughout, in the 3rd person, he says, "The day appointed being come, the court assembled in the meeting house at Boston. Divers of the elders were present, and a great assembly of the people. The deputy governor, coming in with the rest of the magistrates, placed himself within the bar, and so sat uncovered. Some question was in court about his being in that place, for many, both of the court and assembly, were grieved at it. But the deputy telling them that, being criminally accused, he might not sit as a judge in that cause, and if he were upon the bench, it would be a great disadvantage to him, for he could not take that liberty to plead the cause, which he ought to be allowed at the bar. Upon this the court was satisfied. Winthrop was fully and honorably acquitted of all the charges brought against him. The governor, Dudley, read the sentence of the court. Then was the deputy government desired by the court to go up and take his place again upon the bench, which he did accordingly, and the court being about to arise, he desired leave for a little speech, which was to this effect: I suppose something may be expected from me, upon this charge that is befallen me, which moves me to speak now to you. Yet I intend not to intermeddle with the proceedings of the court, or with any of the persons concerned therein. Only I bless God that I see an issue of this troublesome business. I also acknowledge the justice of this court, and for mine own part I am well satisfied I was publicly charged, and I am publicly and legally acquitted, which is all I did expect or desire. And though this be sufficient for my justification before men, yet not so before my God, who hath seen so much amiss in my dispensation, and even in this affair, and calls me to be humble. For to be publicly and criminally charged in this court is a matter of humiliation, and I desire to make a right use of it. Notwithstanding I be thus acquitted. If her father had spit in her face, saith the Lord concerning Miriam, should she not have been ashamed 7 days? Shame had lain upon her, whatever the occasion had been. I am unwilling to stay you from your urgent affairs, yet give me leave, upon this special occasion, to speak a little more to this assembly. It may be of some good use to inform and rectify the judgment of some of the people, and may prevent such distempers as have arisen amongst us. The great questions that have troubled the country, and are about the authority of the magistrates and the liberty of the people. It is yourselves who have called us to this office, and being called by you, we have our authority from God in way of an ordinance, such as hath the image of God eminently stamped upon it, in the contempt and violation whereof hath been vindicated with examples of divine vengeance. I entreat you to consider that when you choose magistrates, you take them from among yourselves, men subject to like passions as you are. Therefore, when you see infirmities in us, you should reflect upon your own, and that would make you bear the more with us, and not be severe censures of the failings of your magistrates when you have continual experience of the like infirmities in yourselves and others. We account him a good servant who breaks not his covenant. The covenant between you and us is the oath you have taken of us, which is to this purpose, that we shall govern you and judge your causes by the rules of God's law and our own, according to our best skill. When you agree with a workman to build you a ship or a house, etc., and he undertakes it well for his skill, for his faithfulness, for it is his profession, and you pay him for both. But when you call one to be a magistrate, he doth not profess office, nor can you furnish him with gifts, etc. Therefore you must run the hazard of his skill and ability. But if he fail in faithfulness, which by his oath he is bound unto, that he must answer for. If it fall out that the case be clear to common apprehension, and the rule clear also, if he transgress here, the error is not in the skill, but in the evil of the will, and it must be required of him. But if the cause be doubtful, or the rule doubtful, to men of such understanding and parts as your magistrates are, if your magistrates should err here, yourself must bear it. For the other point concerning liberty, I observe a great mistake in the country about that. There is a twofold liberty, natural, I mean as our nature is now corrupt, and civil or federal. The first is common to man with beasts and other creatures. By this, man, as he stands in relation to man simply, hath liberty to do what he lists. It is a liberty to evil as well as to good. This liberty is incompatible and inconsistent with authority, and cannot endure the least restraint of the most just authority. The exercise and maintaining of this liberty may make men grow more evil, and in time to be worse than brute beasts. omnes sumus licentia deteriore. Sorry, that is Latin, but I'm not sure what that means. Omnes sumus licentia deteriore. Something about deterioration. This is that great enemy of truth and peace, that wild beast, which all the ordinances of God are bent against, to restrain and subdue it. The other kind of liberty I call civil or federal. It may also be termed moral, in reference to the covenant between God and man in the moral law and the politic covenants and constitutions among men themselves. This liberty is the proper end and object of authority, and could not subsist without it. And it is liberty to that only which is good, just, and honest. This liberty you are to stand for with the hazard not only of your goods, but of your lives, if need be. Whatsoever crosseth this is not authority, but a distemper thereof. This liberty is maintained and exercised in a way of subjection to authority. It is of the same kind of liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. The woman's own choice makes such a man her husband. Yet being so chosen, he is her Lord, and she is to be subject to him, in a way of liberty, not of bondage. And a true wife accounts her subjection her honor and freedom, and would not think her condition safe and free, but in her subjection to her husband's authority. Such is the liberty of the church under the authority of Christ, her king and husband. His yoke is so easy and sweet to her as the bride's ornaments. And if through frowardness or wantonness, but I think they mean forwardness. And if through forwardness or wantonness, etc., she shake it off at any time, she is at no rest in her spirit until she take it up again, and whether her Lord smiles upon her and embraceth her in his arms, or whether he frowns and rebukes, or smites her, she apprehends the sweetness of his love in all, and is refreshed, supported, and instructed by every such dispensation of his authority over her. Isn't that nice? To be smited would just refresh you like that. On the other side, ye know who they are that complain of this yoke, and say, let us break their bonds, etc. We will not have this man to rule over us. Even so, brethren, it will be between you and your magistrates. If you stand for your natural corrupt liberties, and will do what is good in your own eyes, you will not endure the least weight of authority, but will murmur and oppose, and be always striving to shake off that yoke. But if you will be satisfied to enjoy such civil and lawful liberties, such as Christ allows you, then you will quietly and cheerfully submit unto that authority which is set over you, in all the administration of it, for your good. Wherein, if we fail at any time, we hope we shall be willing, by God's assistance, to hearken to good advice from any of you, or in any other way of God. So shall your liberties be preserved, in upholding the honor and power of authority amongst you. It is a very full evidence of the esteem in which he was held, that when many gentlemen of character, some of them of noble alliance, were concerned in the same undertaking with him, by a general voice was placed at their head. He says himself in his excellent journal, which is indeed a treasure to all who revere the memory of their ancestors, I was chosen first to be governor, without my asking or expectation, there being then divers other gentlemen, who, for their abilities every way, were far more fit. He was 11 times chosen governor, and spent his whole estate in the public service. His son John and his grandson Fitzjohn, who was a captain in Colonel Reed's regiment at the Restoration in 1660, were successfully governors of Connecticut colony, and Waite Still, another grandson, was Chief Justice of Massachusetts. Stephen, another son of the elder Winthrop, went to England in 1645 or 1646, had the command of a regiment, and succeeded Harrison in his major generalship, was a member of Parliament for Scotland in 1656, and was much trusted by the Protector. The family in every generation have occupied high stations and been deservedly held in great respect. Its character is now most worthily sustained by the Honorable Robert C. Winthrop, the distinguished and eloquent Speaker of the House of Representatives in the United States Congress, and the Honorable David Sears of Boston. The latter gentleman has been repeatedly a member of the legislature of Massachusetts, as both representative and senator, between the years 1816 and 1826. Governor Winthrop died March 26, 1649, in the 62nd year of his age, and was buried April 3rd in the northern corner of the King's Chapel burying ground. We may truly say of him, as he finally said of the husband of Lady Arabella Johnson, "He was a holy man and wise, and died in a sweet peace." He conducted himself with such address and unshaken rectitude as to render his character universally respected among his contemporaries, and his memory dear to posterity. In his magnanimity, disinterestedness, moderation, and harmonious character, the father of Massachusetts reminds us of the great father of his country, and is the only name in our history worthy to stand as a parallel to Washington. There's a lovely little poem here. How shall we mourn thee? With a lofty trust, our lives' immortal birthright from above. With a glad faith, whose eyes to tract the just, through shades and mysteries lifts a glance of love, and yet can weep, for nature thus deplores the friend that leaves us, though for happier shores. Praise, for yet one more name with power endowed to cheer and guide us onward as we press, yet one more image on the heart bestowed to dwell there, beautiful in holiness. Thine, Winthrop, thine, whose memory from the dead shines as the star which to the Savior led. Somebody writes a song like that about. All right, we've got another engraving here. It's the deathbed of Winthrop. Quite tragic. Beautiful engraving there of John Winthrop. And we also have the biographies. I guess this is what was on his tomb. Okay. Go ahead and read through that. The Winthrop family tomb in King's Chapel burying ground, Tremont Street, Boston. This ancient monument originally had inscribed on it the epitaph which is given below, but it is said that the letters, having become nearly obliterated by time or injured by accident or design during the Revolution, the stone was replaced by another which bears the names and ages of the members of the family as follows. John Winthrop, Governor of Massachusetts, died 1649. Major General Waite Still Winthrop, died September 7th, 1717, aged 76 years. And Anne Winthrop Sears, wife of David Sears, died October 2nd, 1789, aged 33 years. By the way, the fellow that published this book, American Miscellany, his name was Robert Sears. So I wonder if perhaps Robert Sears was related to Anne Winthrop and David Sears, perhaps. Here also rest the remains of John Winthrop, first governor of Connecticut, eldest son of John, founder of Boston, and the first governor of Massachusetts. He died at Boston, 5th of April, 1676. Fitz John Winthrop, his son, governor of Connecticut, died at Boston, 27th of November, 1707. And Thomas L. Winthrop, lieutenant governor of Massachusetts, died 22nd of February, 1840. All right, another lovely little poem. Stand, traveler, and admire ye tomb, and to ye public tears add your own. Bewail ye public loss, if of ye public you are part. This place is a prince's court rather than a tomb. This marble covers dust worthy to be enclosed in gold. 4 Winthrops lie buried in this tomb, who were sufficient to enrich ye 4 quarters of ye earth. He is unacquainted with ye history of New England, who is ignorant of this family. And he has no regard for universal virtue that does not highly value it. The last of these here interred was Waite Winthrop, Esquire, whose last honor was this, that he was governor of New England. He was, alas, he was of New England, ye glory and defense, the light and stay. Major General of Massachusetts colony, of a noble yet peaceful disposition, and who for his country and for peace could die. President of ye council for ye province, whose chiefest care it always was that ye commonwealth might receive no damage, and in whom many died. Chief judge, who paid an equal regard to justice and clemency, he went through ye most honorable stations in ye government, and adorned ye honors which he bore, deserving those which he bore not. A person of ye most undissembled piety, and unspotted probity. I hope somebody says that about me when I'm dead, that I have unspotted probity. Of an exalted yet modest genius, he placed all things beneath himself, himself beneath all men. Benevolent towards all, and most so toward ye poor and needy, injurious to none, not even to enemies, an enemy to none, no unhappy, even though an enemy to none, even though highly provoked. No unhappy person was by him rejected, nor poor one refused admittance, nor did any go away displeased. He was skillful in physic, and being possessed of golden secrets, indeed more valuable than gold itself, and having obtained universal remedies which Hippocrates and Helmont never knew, all that were sick where'er he came, he freely restored to health, and made almost his whole study of nature subservient to medicine. He that under this stone now sleeps in death still lives in ye hearts of thousands whose lives he has prolonged. The merits of Winthrop with him oblivion shall not bury. He was born ye 27th day of December 1641, died ye 7th day of September 1717, in ye 76th year of his age. They who value life and still enjoy it wished him 1,000 years' continuance here, an age exceeding that of Methuselah.